Hi guys, my name is George Bokhua. I'm a graphic designer from country of Georgia with 10 plus years of experience in logo design. Since my last Skillshare course, I got a lot of requests on how to do gridding properly. So I decided to stop by the Skillshare office here in New York and make another class for you guys. In today's class, we're going to learn about the fundamentals of gridding in logo design, and then walk through making an actual logo in order to achieve that look of geometric perfection. Specifically, we'll walk through a simple letterform mark, choose any letter you'd like, and I'll show you how to grid that mark on paper, then clean it up in Illustrator. By the end of this class, you should have a mark of your own that's gridded to perfection. One thing that my experience has taught me is that geometric shapes like circle, spiral, triangle, etc., they have this innate feel of perfection. When your mark consists of those shapes, when you do it nicely and correctly, you do get feeling of that perfection because components of it are perfect. Once you become fluent in gridding, you just start noticing grids everywhere, and that might be a curse or it might be a blessing. It's up to you how you're going to use it. Gridding is a good tool to order your design as well as your life. So what gridding does, it basically allows you to arrange information in a more structured manner. And layout grids are usually consist of vertical and horizontal lines, occasionally diagonal lines, angled lines also, but mostly it's horizontal and vertical lines. Generally you need grids to get a certain type of consistency in arrangement of various graphical elements. In logo design, you as well arrange graphical elements, but they're not as diverse as in the layout grids. For example, in layout grids you have text, you have logos, you have illustration, photography. In logo design you just have different shapes. You have lines, you have circles, ellipses. So gridding in logos are a bit more different and a bit more complicated depending on the complexity of a mark itself. There are several types of grids. The most popular one is a dot grid, which usually is, there are 5mm gaps between the dots. Since they're dots, while you do your sketches, the background image doesn't get in your way and doesn't distract you. The second most popular grid is just square grids. You can work with the 45-degree angled lines as well as 90-degree angle lines. My favorite artist, Frank Stella, extensively used this grid in order to create his works. For example, here he's using diagonal lines as well as straight lines in order to create some of his designs. Also, you can see here where he also made sort of a three-dimensional illusion in his flat composition. Besides the square grid, there is also a square grid that involves diagonal lines. For example, in this Otto Archer's work from 72 Olympics, you can see squares as well as diagonal lines, and he plays this game within this field. And you can get very consistent outcomes. And as you can notice, all the lines are either 45 degrees or 90 degrees or 0 degrees. This shows how flexibly can grids be used. As well as you can simplify any complex geometric form into 45-degree or 90-degree or 0-degree angles, and you can get pretty much any image. This proves that you can just get as complex images as, for example, a hockey player or a jumping basketball player you can get when you play within grids. So some people think that grid is restricting and it's not necessary, but in reality, if you want consistency, definitely gridding is one of the easiest and best forms to create one unifying language of communication. The less common grid is 30-degree angle grids, which are sort of played out in a hexagon shape. Frank Stella also was very good in this. Here you get this sort of a three-dimensional feel, and you can play out your marks. If you want to get some three-dimensionality to your marks, this is the good grid to practice your designs. For example, here you get this one plane, then you get this different sort of a three-dimensional plane here that goes into a depth, and it comes up, so it shows more fluidity, less rigid, more playful forms. So when we do a logo design, usually cases are not as simple as it is in the layout design. As I said earlier, we have more complex forms like circles, spirals, degreed lines, etc. So grids here are a bit more complicated. In this design, I not only try to incorporate horizontal, diagonal, and vertical lines, but also I try to put some golden section in it. Certain type of animals or birds, like swan, present very good opportunity for the golden spiral. For example, in the neck section, you can see that it's just a perfect opportunity to use a golden spiral. And as it turns out, also the golden section ratio here is also was readily available, so I try to incorporate that also. So this is a good example of where I use the square grid. As you can see, the horizontal lines are exactly aligned to the 3-grid system, and vertical grids are a bit thicker since the design required it. This grid allowed me to just make those adjustments in a way that from far away as well as from close it looks just fine. The benefit is that you can align typography to the mark when you have it gridded. For example, here, as you can see, you have this horizontal line and you have the 2 lines of the type where this is aligned to this part, the corner part of the mark, right corner part of the mark. And this allows you to just have more ordered logo plus type together. And as you can tell, without the grid, it looks more balanced. And in some occasions, if you get rid of the bottom part of this mark, you can see that still the mark works well with the type. So this is the example of the 30-degree grids. The reason why I gridded it, because, like, for example, on the right side, you can look at the mark and you can never notice that there is an inconsistency here. The right side of the mark is the degree is bit off, angle is bit off. So what gridding helps is to miss that inconsistency. Here, as you can tell, it's off. So gridding really helped me to find those small inconsistencies after the initial sketching process, and it allowed me to into more precise socket. This defined area here allowed me to direct the exclusion zone for this mark. And what exclusion zone is this area where no other graphical element should enter into the realm of the logo in order to improve its legibility. So for example, if I take this chosen space as an exclusion zone, that means that the surrounding area shall always be free of any other graphic element. Now we have seen some good examples, so it's time for us to start gridding. So let's get started. Firstly, we're gonna do a simple mark where we will do initial sketching and we will do preliminary grids on a paper instead of doing it in the computer. Since it's a simple mark, we can do preliminary gridding. When marks get more complex, we will do gridding afterwards, since more complex marks require different approach. So let's get your papers ready, sharpen your pencils, and let's begin. In the first project, we'll be creating our letter form. To begin, I will just choose what type of R I want to illustrate or to make a logo out of. What I mean here is that I need a basic shape of an R that I can play my design within. A silhouette of Gotham R I find most appealing because Helvetica R is a bit more illustrative. Gotham R is far more simple, and it is constructed of a triangle shape, circle, and two squares, as you can see in this example. So it's always a good thing to have a design in several different. If you have only round design, it gets a bit boring. So this R allows me to sort of combine triangle, circle, and the square into this beautiful form. And here we can see there is a 4-square grid, and I play my game within it. Don't be afraid of experimenting. Just let your creativity flow. Just do whatever you feel comfortable with. Nobody's watching. Just do any shape that comes to your mind. Feel free on a paper. And at some point, you will get a result that you're happy with. For example, here I already found a mark that is quite interesting and different from others that I've seen before. So I'm gonna, here we have three 45-degree angle lines and some horizontal lines, and it has a good combination of a triangular shape and a round capsule shape that is combined quite well. So I'm probably gonna expand this idea a little bit more and see where it takes me. In this case, I do have some 45-degree angle lines, but in the central part, there's too much dark space. So I have to find a ways to fray out this black area so I have negative and positive spaces more evenly distributed throughout the mark. When you do sketching, you're learning your subject. So it's sort of getting introduced to the matrix of letter R, and once you're in it, you can just experiment a little more and dig in deeper, and sometimes you just run into things unexpectedly. It rarely happens where you have idea beforehand and then you execute it. Usually ideas pop up on the paper while you're working at it, so you sort of have to channel yourself into the design and just grasp the ideas while you're at work. So here, this by pure accident, this negative space thunder popped up. And it's quite interesting, and you always have to sharpen your eyes for such lucky accidents. And difference between a good designer and beginner designer is sometimes beginners don't know what is the correct thing, and you have to always be concentrated and just don't miss the right solution. If you're experienced, you can hit the mark in 5-6 sketches, but at the beginning I would advise everyone to just fill out maybe 5-6 full pages of paper, 40 to 50 different directions. If you run into it that you're very certain about, then you can just stop and start executing. But usually when you get that flow going, you have to keep ideas just flowing for hours and hours and uninterruptedly. I would really suggest to turn off your phones or just do not communicate with outer world. You definitely need several maybe half hour to 1 hour to get into the design, and if something else grabs your attention, you might lose that flow. So if you sit down, prepare for 2-3 hours of sketching, and at some point you will get a good result. As you can see on this top left corner of a second page, this is the art which I feel quite comfortable with. I know it's not done yet, but I already know the matrix of it, so I'm gonna move to the next phase where I'm gonna draw out the grid for this R. I made a little drawing of the R that I'm gonna execute, and what I noticed here, I have a square form that I'm playing my shapes inside of the square form. So what I'm gonna do on this square grid paper, I'm gonna start doing drawing of the grid. So what I'm doing here, I'm gonna divide this into 3 evenly spaced out grid, and I'm gonna do some 45-degree angled lines. So as you can see in this example, the grid I have divided into one section of a grid. I have divided it into 3 units here for black space and 2 units here for white space. And the reason for it is because white space is more it looks thicker than a black space. So black space has more gravity and white space is more sort of outwardly. So in our case, to balance out the negative and positive space, we will need to make white space a little bit less. So here we have almost finished mark. As you can see, I tried to align this half circle to the first section of the bottom grid, and we have half of the grid divided by this diagonal lines, and we have a nice round stripes joining the R shape, which creates this folding effect. And after we execute it, we're gonna add some shadows to it, and on a dark background, it's gonna look top-notch. So I'm just gonna color this one just to make sure that it looks fine before I start executing. I always advise to do your maximum during your sketching process. This not only will make you a better sketcher, but also you will need less time you will spend less time on the computer, and in our case, in this case, pretty much I would say 70% of the mark is finished. What I can see already right now is that some of the horizontal lines will need a bit more thickness, but those are the things that I'm gonna experiment with on the computer. But at this point, 70% of the mark is close to the final outcome. In the Illustrator, we'll do the gridding, which will guarantee that the mark will be even more sound than it is at this point. Okay, so let the party begin. First thing, we're gonna import our grid into the Illustrator and start making some guides. So first one I'm gonna do here is create the outer grid. And make sure you have a Command Y pushed, so you have all the snap to the grids option available. Command U, I'm sorry. And then I'm gonna do a diagonal divider, the first one. And here I'm gonna just choose, since I know already that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 squares, I'm gonna try to replicate the initial sketch into my computer grid. So let's grab this one, divided by 15. So here I have my initial square. And I'm gonna copy it here, and then I'm gonna push Command D, so I have everything just in place. Then I'm gonna copy this, rotate it with a 90-degree angle, and snap it to my initial top bottom left corner. So here I have pretty much the same ratios as not pretty much, exactly same ratios as I have in my initial sketch. Now I'm gonna count the 3 squares here, 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna make another line. So I have my first diagonal line. Here I missed the point, so I'm gonna go back and snap it back to the grid point. So at this point we're gonna make a second diagonal line. Okay, so pretty much the preliminary work of gridding is done here. So I have imported my second sketch, and I'm just gonna use this, place it underneath my initial grid. Don't worry if it doesn't perfectly align, because you still get the rough idea what the thicknesses are. So just try as best as you can. So as I can see here, it's a little bit more than 2 grid points. Firstly, I'm gonna start designing the round part of the mark. So this is my center point for the circle. I'm gonna just, for a reference, gonna use this square as a certain center part of the circle that I'm gonna design. I'm gonna take a circle, and get it to the right point. Now I'm gonna grab this space where I have two unit grid. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, and this will be my my reference point to do the thicknesses for the circle. And what I mean is vertically and horizontally. So here I'm gonna copy paste this circle, make it a bit smaller, and this is gonna make sure it's exactly to the spot. So this is where I'm at now. And let's copy paste this again with a Command C and Command F. Let's just put it here. I have not decided what the distance from this point to this point is yet, but I'm gonna just roughly do it as it is now and see if it works, and then adjust it. Let's move this here again, so we know the distance. Okay, so here I have a little bit of an inconsistency because the sketch was not too perfect. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make this smaller, adjust this line, and try to do this again. I'm gonna try doing it until I get it more or less close to the initial sketch. Okay, here we go. It's pretty close. I'm just gonna copy this in case I will need to get back to initial design. So let me get rid of this initial square and other measuring objects. All right, I'm gonna start cutting, and then we're gonna start putting some color in. At this point, I'm not 100% sure that the thickness of this line is visually similar to the diagonal line, but as soon as we pour some color in, we're gonna know 100% if it's right or not. So let me cut this up real quick, and I'm gonna make those cuts into half circles. I don't need this outer square anymore, so I'm gonna get rid of it so I don't have too much extra things. Neither do I need those unit grids. Okay, so let's cut this real quick. Make sure it's on the right on the anchor points. Okay, so I also need to cut this right when it touches this area. Okay, so I do have outline ready. I'm gonna copy it, and now I'm gonna take a pen tool and just connect these things. Make sure you're right in the intersection, and we'll have to double check it afterwards. So when you're using a pen tool, make sure you hold your shift button so it's straight. And as soon as you find the intersection lit while you touch the diagonal line, that's where you want to release the pen tool. And now we need to connect it. Same here, push the shift button and connect those. So now we have to see if we have any mistakes. So just push Command Y to go to wireframe mode and just see if you missed anything. So here it seems pretty clear. Here also. So far so good. Okay, everything seems clear and correct. We're gonna copy this image again, grab a black color and just pour into it. This one, right here, right here, right here, and right here. So at this point I realized the thickness of the round lines are not in harmony with the thickness of diagonal lines. So I'm gonna go back a few steps and make those lines a little bit thicker so the negatives and positive space is more balanced. So I'm quite happy with the result. It seems pretty well balanced. Now I'm gonna put it on a dark background, because when you see it white reversed out of black, you can actually notice negative space even better. So let's see how it looks on the dark. It feels right here also. So what I'm gonna do here to add an extra notch of folding effect, I'm gonna put a gray shadow between round part and the diagonal part. And I'm gonna try to make it the same thickness as a diagonal line so it looks more consistent. So the darkness of this shadow, it really is up to you. 30% usually is what I like, but it could be less, more, depends how strong you want the effect to show when it's farther away. Now what I don't like about this is that we have this weird little space here that is not in line. So I'm ready to sacrifice the idea that the diagonal line shadow should be same width as the diagonal line here. So I'm gonna increase the width of it because it's dark anyways. It looks smaller than white, so it will be more sound if I'll just make it a little bit larger. So this is pretty close to our final result. I'm gonna sit over it and if I look at it after 10 minutes, if nothing bothers me, to rest my eye. If nothing bothers me, I'm gonna call this mark done. Voila, we have a finished mark. So this is our final result. On the left side we have a mark without the grid. In the center we have a mark with the grid, and on the right side we have just the grid. And looking at just the grid, you see that there is a quite consistency there, and the grid itself looks well balanced, and mark inside also looks pretty well balanced. And at this point we're ready to call this project done. I hope you enjoyed working on your own mark, and please share your results. I'm looking forward to seeing it.